I love my wife. My wife is dead. In June of 1945, Arlene Feynman, high school sweetheart and wife of the hugely influential physicist Richard Feynman, passed away after succumbing to tuberculosis. She was 25 years old. 16 months later, in October of 1946, Richard wrote his late wife the following love letter and sealed it in an envelope. It remained unopened until after his death in 1988. October 17th, 1946. Darlene, I adore you, sweetheart. I know how much you like to hear that. But I don't only write it because you like it. I write it because it makes me feel warm all over inside to write it to you. It is such a terribly long time since I last wrote to you. Almost 2 years, but I know you'll excuse me because you understand how I am, stubborn and realistic, and I thought there was no sense to writing. But now I know, my darling wife, that it is right to do what I have delayed in doing, and that I have done so much in the past. I want to tell you, I love you. I want to love you. I always will love you. I find it hard to understand in my mind what it means to love you after you are dead, but I still want to comfort and take care of you, and I want you to love me and care for me. I want to have problems to discuss with you. I want to do little projects with you. I never thought until just now that we can do that. What should we do? We started to learn to make clothes together, or learn Chinese, or getting a movie projector. Can't I do something now? No. I am alone without you, and you were the idea woman and general instigator of all our wild adventures. When you were sick, you worried because you could not give me something that you wanted to and thought that I needed. You needn't have worried. Just as I told you then, there was no real need because I loved you in so many ways, so much. And now it is clearly even more true. You can give me nothing, yet I love you, so that you stand in my way of loving anyone else. But I want you to stand there. You, dead, are so much better than anyone else alive. I know you will assure me that I am foolish, and that you want me to have full happiness, and don't want to be in my way. I'll bet you are surprised that I don't even have a girlfriend, except you, sweetheart. After 2 years, but you can't help it, darling, nor can I. I don't understand it, for I have met many girls, and very nice ones, and I don't want to remain alone. But in 2 or 3 meetings, they all seem ashes. You only are left to me. You are real. My darling wife, I do adore you. I love my wife. My wife is dead. Rich. P.S. Please excuse my not mailing this, but I don't know your new address. When I first heard of this letter, it was in a Chris Williamson clip from his podcast. Even when I heard him read it, my heart felt heavy, and I could feel that lump in my throat that no one wants to feel. That agonizing, cumbersome, 10-ton lump that feels like handcuffs that grip your vocal cords. Each line was so raw and heartfelt that anyone who reads the letter could feel the emotions Richard did as he wrote it. The context of this letter is easy to find online, but I'll give it here in case you don't want to look it up. Richard's wife had contracted tuberculosis and fought the battle for roughly 7 years before she passed at the age of 25. Her and Richard had been high school lovers, and they had kept that love strong even when Richard was offered to go work on the top-secret Manhattan Project in Los Alamos, and his wife, Arlene, was in a hospital 100 miles away. Richard wrote to Arlene frequently, telling her how much he loved her in each letter. He even remarked that loving her was an obsession that had taken over his mind. Richard was a legendary physicist to those who know their scientific history. He was making great strides at the time working on the Manhattan Project, helping to create the world's first atom bomb to end World War II. As such, he was dealing with very demanding work schedules and deadlines, and could only see Arlene once a week in the hospital where she stayed. In some of his letters, he even told her to stop crying and bothering the nurses. "Just be strong," he said. In hindsight, even Richard probably realized how callous this was, but he couldn't see it while he was in the eye of the storm, and the walls of his life were collapsing around him as he desperately tried to patch it all up, knowing inevitably that this was a losing battle, but still thinking that things would work out. After all, they had to, right? Unfortunately, this was not the case for Richard, as often it's not the case in life for any of us. The happy ever after endings we desperately crave, resorting to watching cheesy romantic comedies just for that escapism from the grim reality that tragedy often is the true ending to most things. In June 1945, Richard received a phone call that his wife was dying. Richard drove to her immediately and stayed with her during her final hours until her death. The part of this that was remarkably cinematic was the fact that the clock that was in the hospital room stopped working right as Arlene drew her last breath at 9:21 p.m. Richard, the characteristically skeptical atheist scientist, tried to provide a rational explanation. Yet, even he could not help but profess the 1,000,000 to 1 odds that this synchronicity had occurred. So then why should we care about this letter or this event at all? Many people around the world are forced to adopt the noun of widow or widower as an adjective to describe their lives after their other half is gone. What makes Richard so special? Well, Richard is special because Richard turned into an atheist at the age of 15, rejecting all forms of religion or faith in favor of the materialist flavors that rationalism and empiricism bring with them. Richard, a genius, and one of the only men on this earth who had the mental faculties to truly profess a belief in atheism with any credibility, was unable to rationalize his feelings after the death of his wife. In fact, he tried the rational route. After returning from his wife's death, he went right back to work at the lab and tried to work through it, burying himself in his work, as men of great success often do. He didn't hide his feelings. He even said he didn't feel anything differently after her death. That's how shocked he was. However, 18 months after her death, he was passing by a store and saw dresses on sale, and immediately he lost it, thinking of his wife Arlene. After that event, his life started to unravel. He was unable to keep working. He lost all interest in making scientific achievements for a long time. And so he wrote this heartfelt letter 18 months later after her death. And this was the last letter he ever wrote to his beloved Arlene. And in a cruel irony, it was the only one that she could never read. So the question comes, why would a man with his intellectual faculties and reasoning prowess and belief in logic write a letter to someone who could never read, let alone feel the contents of it? Because the reality is, deep down, Richard sensed that somehow, somewhere, she could read it. That unexplainable, illogical feeling that some psychiatrists might think is a mental health disorder, maybe even a symptom of one, or maybe even a therapeutic device to help cope with the pain of losing a loved one. That feeling is faith. Every human is inherently faithful. Every human has an area in their life where they look beyond logic and reason, and they adopt a hope in something they can't see, touch, smell, taste, but they can feel it. They don't know why they can feel it, but they do. And so a true atheist does not exist on this earth, never has, and never will. I believe the most important faith in the world is in love. Pure, unfiltered, uncompromising, unfair, unrelenting, unassuming, and undeniable love. I dedicate this video to my second half on a special day. I love you so much. And to my listeners, never, ever lose faith in love. It really is the only thing that you can put all your faith into, and no matter how much it hurts, it will never be unfair to you. It'll never be unjust. It will give back to you exactly what you gave to Ed, even if, in the moment, it doesn't seem so. Because love transcends all logic, all reason, and trying to apply these things to it, it's a fool's game.